Welcome back to Otaku Daikun. Dai here, and this video is going to be about cringe-worthy dubs. The battle between dub and sub, it still wages to this day, but I feel most people would agree that when comparing dubs to subs, the quality of dubs varies far more greatly than subs. Of course, I'm referring to English dubbed anime versus Japanese dubbed anime with subtitles. I love myself a good English dub as much as the next fan, but even I have to admit that some dubs are just god-awful. Creating a solid English dub is a complex setup of clear translation, minor transliteration, consistent and aware directing, as well as some great vocal performances. If any of these are messed up, the entire production can derail into offensive territories. Ultimately, what this boils down to is our immersion into an anime. A great dub will draw us in on its own merits and hold us in with its drama, while remaining as faithful as possible to the original work. Mess up, and a scene that's supposed to touch your heart just winds up itching you the wrong way. In this video, I plan to address various English dubs that are either completely terrible or are decent, but have at least one major flaw that breaks our immersion. As a disclaimer, I will not be putting 4Kids dubs on this list, since they're destined to suck no matter what. The very principle the company thrives on results in butchered garbage. Same goes for Sailor Moon's original English dub. Changes that big are low-hanging fruit. Plus, I happen to like the localized music, if only on a nostalgic level. Oh, and there might be a few spoilers here and there, but I'll try to avoid giving too much context for any clips shown. That said, let's go! Our buddies at ADV/Sentai Filmworks put a lot of heart into their dubs, but don't seem to look both ways before crossing the road and get hit by a semi. As such, their dubs often have many mistakes strewn around in all areas of the dubbing process. At their worst is how they've handled the big animations from Key and Kyoto Animation. Let's start with Air. It's a beautiful anime with a surprisingly decent dub. However, ADV Films had a trend of bypassing honorifics in culturally specific language. When Kanna takes to the skies, she gives some parting words before dissipating. In Japanese, she says Ryuya Dono. Now, Dono is an honorific that implies respect on a near masterly level. Not as high-ranking as Sama, but revering them in high regard nonetheless. English hardly uses anything akin to honorifics, so ADV tried to sidestep the entire thing by changing her line. As you can see, Kanna now says, Ryuya, oh baby, which is a strange way of showing affection. While I won't argue that Kanna and Ryuya were very close at this point in the anime, the line could have just as easily been, my love, or the more accurate, yet less expressive, my lord. One of the most memorable scenes in the entire anime made me frown like a drunken clown. Another solid dub with a strange quirk is ADV's English version of Canon 2006. It's hard to imagine screwing up a scene with Chris Patton as the starring role, but they pulled it off. You'll find that ADV usually doesn't care about the pronunciation of its characters, and this is often the culprit of their various dubbing sins. Sometimes it's not a big deal, but a mispronunciation can often sound truly silly. One example is Makoto Suwatari. Our protagonist Yuichi refers to as Suwatari.
Is that her name?
Makoto Suwatari. She's a guest in this house, another freeloader just like me.
The way Patton is allowed to say her name deprives it of sounding Japanese at all. Even if not completely accurate, he could have at least said Suwatari. The worst name butchering in anime that I've ever encountered spurred me to make an entire episode on Japanese pronunciation. The culprit is Sentai's dub of Clannad, which was already littered with issues prior.
In that case, how about Ushio? We can use the character for Tide.
Ushio.
Yep.
Our buddy David Matrenga plays Tomoya, who apparently can't get his own daughter's name right. Having seen Clannad in Japanese first, hearing Tomoya say Ushio really threw me off and ruined the dub from then on. It's not just him. Some characters say it right, Ushio, while the rest add that extra U to the start. What's worse is that Nagisa had just said the name properly, and having such a contrasting follow-up just reminds you that these actors record their lines separately from each other. It's an ADR director's job to keep performances and pronunciations consistent from actor to actor in order to create the illusion that the characters are actually talking to each other. While I find it absurd that Matrenga couldn't grasp such a simple rule of Japanese vowels, given that he's a paid anime voice actor, the blame falls mainly on the director, Janice Williams. The same sort of jarring disruption of belief happens in Season 1, when Tsunohara says, "Yoshino call," and Tomoyo responds, "A Yoshino call?"
Isn't that Yusuke Yoshino?
Oh, yeah, the guy from the wedding, right?
While we're at it, we might as well ask him to join too. Hey, Yoshino!
I don't think he can hear you.
Let's do a Yoshino call.
A Yoshino call?
Yeah, like when you want an encore.
Bad director, bad. Lastly, who the hell thought it was a good idea to let Matrenga play Tomoya's child voice?
Hey, when you have your big birthday party, is it okay if I invite some of my friends over too? Oh, come on, I bet everyone would love to come here and make friends with you. It'll be fun, I promise.
Nah, no way. Then again, these were the same people who let Lucy Christian play both Nagisa and her daughter. Sentai's ignorance of names knows no bounds, given that they call Yuripe, from Angel Beats, Euripi.
You bastard! You're the jerk that insulted Euripi and refused to enlist in the battlefront!
It's as if their actors can't be bothered to at least try speaking a Japanese name without an American slur. That, or the director, Stephen Foster, was jacking it and not paying attention to his actors. Utawareru Mono, which I'm hella surprised they didn't alter the title for, had a lot of what I'd call reducted names. Hakuoto, in particular, had his name watered down to Hakuro. If you can get past that, you'll find this scene that nearly made me bite my tongue off.
I bet you were probably pissing your pants as you hid in fear.
Really? Is that what you think? I was not aware that fear caused people to piss their pants.
I'd seen this anime in Japanese first, yet I didn't remember any line sounding that bizarre. That's because the actual translation had to do with profuse sweating, not urination. Nice job, Christine Otten, for your lovely script. One last jab at ADV is their pronunciation of the honorific Chan in Steel Angel Kurumi 2.
You must like it down there.
Uchan!
Messing that up is like failing Anime 101. Even Lucy Christian fell for this one. As Gordon Ramsay would say, damn. I mentioned this dub in my review on Steins Gate, but now I can demonstrate more clearly. While I have no qualms with the actual voice cast or their performances, the wild script changes were enough to transform the characters and remove their charm. Funimation's got a reputation for heavily rewriting their scripts, and John Michael Tatum's script took the childish, wacky Okabe and turned him into an overly literate, Shakespearean hero. Just listen to how heavy-handed his lines are.
The good doctor has beaten us to the punch, O devoted one. He, in his unqualified hubris, has broken ground on the invention of the millennium, and I'm morbidly curious to see where our theories intersect, if at all.
I've actually got 6 different games to bully for this list. The first is Star Ocean: The Last Hope, which has some stiff performances, but the real sin is with Limmel, played by Hunter Mackenzie Austin.
He's my little doggy. Okay?
I actually don't know how she's supposed to sound in Japanese, but her English voice sounds about as uncanny as her doll-like appearance. There are plenty of adults playing kids' voices in English dubs, and they manage to pull it off decently. This sounds inhuman. The next one gets a bit of a pass for being an old 90s dub that reaches so bad it's good territory. Mega Man 8 is known for its wildly sloppy dub, especially with pretty much all of Dr. Light's lines.
When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wowie.
Even if you can get through the Dr. Wowie without laughing, the moment he stutters his lines and keeps going will have you rolling on the floor.
We must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man. That's a good question. We may be able to locate another energy emission from the radar room.
I can't believe they would use that take. What's far less excusable is a bad dub for the current gen. Final Fantasy Type 0 HD has some of the strangest character performances around. Admittedly, the main cast of characters is a bunch of naive teenagers raised in a bizarrely military society. Since the game features dual audio, we can hear how, in Japanese, the voices sound appropriate and flow like a normal conversation. Not so for the English delivery. Given the nature of game voiceover recording, The North American actors definitely don't act off of each other, so the quality of acting changes from actor to actor, from line to line, within the same scene. For some reason, Sync, played by the talented Christina V, sounds really freaking weird, to the point where I can hardly describe exactly why.
I need Trey to stop saying such unpleasant things all the time.
Essentially, the acting is about as consistent as the game's fragmented story. The next 3 games sound more like bootleg rip-offs than actual releases, but they're official alright. First, we've got Trouble Witches, a cute-em-up for the Xbox Live Arcade. It's pretty fun, if not a little easier than the average bullet hell, but the dub here is laughably horrid.
Welcome to the Pumpkin Girl Shop. So, Master is not home. Wait, can he be serious? A cat? No way.
Yes, Ray. I am Maru, your trusted servant of this journey. Now let's get going.
I honestly can't imagine what went wrong here. It's like the cast tried really, really hard but had no idea just how awful they sounded. My guess is that none of these guys speak English natively. Next is likely a similar case, Castle Shikigami 2. Here we have unimpressive voice acting paired with a script shat right out of Google Translator.
You're totally alone, don't you know that? Wanted to be you. You won't be alone.
Is that why you're making trouble? Villains gather. Heroes do it alone. I don't mind if I die alone.
Wow, so strong. You remind me of what I used to be. A man that boasts is a useless waste. A person can't be number one. He's just a braggart. Find me a man who other men would like.
Something about bullet hells and nightmare localizations. This last game is actually really fun, and I like the voices quite a lot, but their line delivery is just so bland that it very much resembles old Godzilla dubs. I actually think that was the whole point, so I find it charming. But I dare you not to laugh.
Now, you are overdoing it.
Studio Ghibli's had trouble in the past getting their movies brought overseas. Of course, I'm referring to Warriors of the Wind, a butchered version of Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, which cut over 30 minutes of content and tried to change the entire theme of the film. This eventually led to Disney taking over all North American releases of Ghibli films. This is ultimately a great thing, as we were so close to losing out on all sorts of amazing films. That said, not all of the original localizations were bad. One in particular, My Neighbor Totoro, had a 20th Century Fox dub that I grew up with. When Disney redubbed the entire film for home video, they actually did a far worse job. For one, Disney tends to hire A-list actors who don't have the same experience doing voiceovers, so their performances lose vitality. Worse though is their ignorant, casual way of referring to the titular character as Totoro.
Totoro? Totoro? Where's Totoro? Maybe you were dreaming. No, I saw Totoro. Totoro?
Is it that hard to emphasize a T rather than letting it slur into a D? Totoro's not an amphibian, so stop calling him a toad. Furthermore, we have one train wreck of an opening song.
Ready, set, let's go!
This lady isn't singing, she's shouting. Childhood ruined. I've been so tempted to make a Blu-ray encoding featuring the older dub. It's way better. Perhaps the sorriest excuse for a dub I've ever heard has been from Initial D's Tokyo Pop release. During localization, in an aggressive attempt to appeal to a more casual American audience, Tokyo Pop stripped the original anime of all of its awesome Eurobeat music and replaced it with edgy trash. Furthermore, they gave all the characters nicknames and forced slang into their lines.
There's no reason KT's FD would lose. The monster isn't the car, but the driver.
In the end, this English version doesn't feel or sound sincere at all. Thankfully, you'll never have to worry about it again, as Funimation took up the torch and redubbed the whole darn thing. The final entry in this list I wish to speak about is what's called the Sony dub of Rurouni Kenshin. You know, the show starring Kenshi.
So what does Kenshi say about all this?
His love interest Cory.
Hey, Cory!
And their little friend Yoshi as they travel to Edo.
I have to go to Edo.
To defeat the big bad Shishio.
And Shishio and his gang did this.
Wait, you don't remember that premise? Then you're lucky and grew up with the Media Blasters dub, which was way the hell better. Funny enough, both versions starred Richard Cancino as Kenshin, which leads me to believe that the Sony's dub flaws came from poor direction and script interference. Either way, it's nice to know we can lay this one to rest as a far superior version is now considered official. Those are all the dubs I have a personal vendetta against for being so awful. That said, I feel I've only scratched the surface of all the bad dubs throughout the ages. Which dubs do you detest? Are you a fan of some that I'm not? Let's rough up that comment section a bit. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a dub hater. To prove it to you, I plan on making a video discussing what I consider to be great English dubs, and another video discussing voice actors and their best performances. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to Otaku Daikun for weekly uploads of anime lists, recommendations, reviews, discussions, and let's plays. Want more? Check out my previous videos. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.